Today we're going to translate points. So translation is moving a point either to the right or to the left or up or down or some combination. So the way that you're going to translate a point is we're going to give you a vector, which is something that's in these little pointy brackets. And the vector tells you if you're moving left or right, up or down. This first number has to do with moving left or right. It has to do with moving in the x direction. So when x's are positive, that's to the right. When x is negative, it's to the left. So if A is positive, you're moving to the right. If A is negative, you're moving to the left. So we're going to take our point xy, and we are going to add A to the x coordinate. Take A out of your vector and add it to the x coordinate of your point. Then B tells me how I move up or down. It has to do with your y coordinate. So I'm going to add B to my y coordinate. And that will give me my new point after I've translated along this vector. So my example is I want to take point P, which is at -2, 1. So here's point P. I'm going to translate it along the vector 7, 4. So that means I'm going to take my x coordinate -2, and I'm going to add 7 to -2, which gives me 5. So for my new point P prime, my x coordinate is now 5. I added 7 to -2. To get my y coordinate, I'm going to take my y coordinate, which is 1. I'm going to add 4 to it, 5. So my new y coordinate is also 5. So when I go plot this new point P prime, that shows me, oh, look, I slid point P to the right 7 units, and then I slid it up 4 units. So your vector communicates your movement. 7 units to the right and 4 units up. Let's work some examples. So I have triangle ABC. A is at -3, 2. Okay. B is at 0, 1. And C is at -2, -3. Have this triangle. And I'm going to translate this triangle across the vector -1, 4. Or it even spells it out for you. This is another way to write it. You can subtract 1 from your x coordinates, add 4 to your y coordinates. So my new point A prime, I'm going to subtract 1 from the x coordinate. So -3 minus 1 is -4. Then I'm going to add 4 to the y coordinate. 2 plus 4 is 6. So A prime is now at -4, 6. It's actually off the grid. That's okay. Here's A prime. So I moved it to the left and up. Left, up. B prime would be 0 minus 1, -1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So B prime's at -1, 5. And then C prime, my C coordinate, x coordinate is -2, so -2 minus 1 is -3. -3 plus 4 is 1. Right. So it looks like I just took this blue triangle and I slid it to the left and up to get my new triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, on number 2, it tells me that segment AB is translated across the vector -9, 4. If A is at 3, 0, and B is at -2, -2, find the endpoints of the transformed segment. So after I slide it across this vector, translate it along the vector, what would be my new points A prime and B prime? I want y'all to pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay, so the new point A would be -9 plus 3, which is -6. I'm adding 4 to my y coordinate. 0 plus 4 is 4. So A prime would be -6, 4. And then B prime, -2, -2. -2 plus -9 is -11. And -2 plus 4 is +2. So B prime's at -11, 2. Number 3 is really interesting. We're going to take point C, translate it across the vector. But I'm not telling you what the vector is. It says, what is the vector for a translation? So what we have to do is we have to think, okay, I'm starting at C, which is 5, 3. And I'm ending up at C prime, which is 3, -2. So I have to think about how am I getting from C to C prime. So let's look at our x coordinates first. How do I get from 5 to 3? Is it getting bigger or smaller? It's getting smaller. That means I'm subtracting 2. So for my vector, which remember, vectors have pointy brackets. Ordered pairs, points have rounded parentheses. A vector has a pointy bracket. It's really important that you distinguish if you're using a vector, it has to have pointy brackets. If it's a point, an ordered pair, it has to have rounded parentheses. So my vector, I'm going to subtract 2 from my x coordinates. And then I'll look at my y coordinate. I went from 3 to -2. So it got smaller. 3, I'm subtracting 5. I'm going down 5. So 3 minus 5 is -2. So my vector is -2, -5. That's one way to write it. Another way would be x minus 2, y minus 5. Both of these are my final answer.